In November 2025, friends from across the UK came together with one shared calling. They raised thousands of pounds, gave their time selflessly, and set aside the miles that separated them back home, all for a single purpose. That purpose was to stand with the people of Bangladesh, to serve them directly, and to deliver life-changing programs with their own hands and hearts. The deployment begins in Sylhet, where the team spent their first few days immersed on the ground, working hands-on with several programs, not as visitors, but as partners in hope and change. The group began their journey at the Cataracts Assessment Centre, where they met hundreds of elderly men and women who lived in darkness for years, unable to see, unable to afford treatment, unable to imagine a different future. Throughout the day, the team worked side by side with the local ground staff at each assessment station. They offered support, reassurance, and a gentle conversation, calming fears as patients learned whether they would need surgery or simply medication or prescription glasses. For many, it was the first time in years that someone had taken the time to listen, explain, and care. Once pre-assessments were complete, patients were transported to the eye hospital for the night, where they rested and prepared for surgery the following day, filled with hope, anxiety, and quiet anticipation. When the team returned to the hospital the next day, they witnessed the surgeries firsthand and spent time with the patients. They were met with nothing but smiles, gratitude, and overwhelming emotion. These vulnerable elderly individuals had regained more than their sight. They had reclaimed their independence, dignity, and a second chance at life. Through this project, 200 elderly people successfully underwent cataract surgery, whilst many more received essential medication or prescription glasses, a small intervention that made an immeasurable difference. The journey continued in Sylhet with the first phase of the livelihood program, where the group distributed electric rickshaws to individuals who had no reliable day-to-day source of income. This experience deeply moved the team, opening their eyes to the daily struggles faced by families simply trying to survive and provide for their loved ones. The life-changing initiative does far more than create an income. It restores human dignity, it builds self-confidence, and it gives individuals the chance to stand on their own 2 feet. For many families, a single sustainable source of income can change everything, gradually lifting them out of poverty and into a future filled with hope. The team also visited individuals who received electric rickshaws during the pilot program 6 months earlier to see the impact firsthand. The difference was undeniable. Some were now able to send their children to school, others had repaired their homes, cleared long-standing debts, and most importantly, all of them were able to put food on their plates and not let their families sleep hungry. As their time in Sylhet drew to a close, the emotional impact of the deployment had already taken hold of the group. They felt a powerful mix of emotions: gratitude, fulfillment, and excitement for what lay ahead. But the sadness at leaving behind the people and places that had already changed them. With heavy hearts, but renewed purpose, the group boarded a plane bound for Dhaka, ready to continue the remaining projects and carry forward everything that they had witnessed, learnt, and felt. Rejuvenated and rested, it was time to hit the streets of the capital city, Dhaka, and onto Muntada Aid's signature program, Little Hearts. Here, the group spent a few days meeting world-class surgeons who were preparing to carry out life-saving heart surgeries for children born with congenital heart conditions. Excited, yet quite anxious, the group stepped into the world where they were unprepared. They met families and their children, listened to the stories of hardship that these precious lives had endured since birth, and the emotional toll it had taken on parents who have lived for years with fear, uncertainty, and unanswered prayers. When the child emerged and the parents were given the words that they had been longing to hear, the surgery was a success. The fear, the anxiety had melted away. Overwhelming joy, gratitude, and relief. The expressions on their face are memories that will stay with every member of the group forever. But the unfortunate, sobering reality remains. Every year in Bangladesh, thousands of children are born with congenital heart defects, But this journey has strengthened the group's resolve. They will continue to strive and raise even more funds to sponsor even more life-saving heart surgeries, so these children are given a second chance to live, grow and thrive. The group continued to their final project, where they met with the world-renowned gynecologist Dr. Saiba, a woman who had dedicated her life to supporting women who suffer silently from fistula. Once again, the group was confronted with a heartbreaking reality: mothers whose lives have been turned upside down, most often due to poverty and a lack of access to proper healthcare during childbirth. They were shown the vital steps she and her team are taking to treat patients, restore dignity and rebuild lives, and how continued support, sponsored surgeries and awareness can offer these women a hope for the future, free from pain and isolation. This experience served as a profound reality check for the group. It forced them to reflect deeply on the healthcare systems available to themselves and their families back in the UK. As the deployment neared its end, despite the emotional ups and downs, the countless days of disruptive sleep, and the long days on their feet, the group knew they could not leave without spending a day with the children at the Children's Development Centre, a place supported by Muntada Aid that provides care, education and stability to over 50 orphan children. The group spent their final day attending Friday prayers together with the children, sharing lunch, having conversations and ending the day with a game of football. Simply being in the children's presence was deeply heartwarming. In their smiles and laughter, the group saw reflections of their own children. They listened to the children as they spoke about what they wanted to become when they grew up, their hopes, their ambitions, goals and dreams. A powerful reminder that every child, regardless of circumstance, carries a limitless potential. The deployment could not have ended in a more meaningful way. But this is not the end. The group has committed to making this deployment an annual priority, with the aim of making it even more impactful, successful and far-reaching in 2026 and beyond. Watch this space, follow the journey, donate generously and be part of the change.
Jazakumullahu khairan always for supporting us. But just before we end, I want to ask all the brothers one more time, now that they've gone through the deployment, what word do they have for us?
Life-changing.
Asha, hope.
Overwhelming.
Sad.
Attachment.
Nothing but beautiful.
Feel honored. Alhamdulillah.